We've all experienced it. That strange feeling of being in control of something, only to find out later we never were. The gambler who swears their lucky charm influenced the dice roll. The employee who believes their performance guarantees job security in a company facing layoffs. Or the student who thinks their study playlist somehow helps them ace exams. Why do we cling so tightly to the idea that we control outcomes, even when the evidence says otherwise? Welcome to a deep dive into one of the mind's most persistent illusions, the illusion of control. A psychological quirk, a philosophical puzzle, and a window into the limits of human agency. Today, we'll explore where this illusion comes from, how it affects our thinking, and what it reveals about our relationship with uncertainty, randomness, and ourselves. The illusion itself. In 1975, psychologist Ellen Langer conducted a now-famous experiment. Participants were given lottery tickets. Some chose their own numbers, others were handed tickets at random. When Langer later offered to buy back the tickets, those who had selected their own numbers demanded significantly more money. The catch? All the tickets were for the same lottery, with identical odds of winning. Langer concluded that people who merely chose their own numbers felt more in control and thus more confident about winning, even though their choice had zero effect on the outcome. This is the illusion of control in action, the tendency to overestimate our influence over external events. It's not just gamblers or superstitious folks. It's all of us. We see patterns where there are none. We believe our rituals, habits, or decisions can shape outcomes that are actually random. We crave control, and our brains are willing to fabricate it if necessary. Psychology of control. At its core, the illusion of control is about predictability. Humans are pattern-seeking creatures. When events feel random or uncertain, we instinctively look for causes, and often we imagine ourselves as the cause. This illusion is amplified by three powerful psychological mechanisms. 1. Personal involvement. The more involved we feel in a process, the more control we believe we have, even if our actions don't actually influence the result. For example, people rolling dice in casinos tend to throw harder when they want high numbers and softer for low ones, as if it changes the outcome. 2. Familiarity. When we're familiar with a task or environment, we tend to overestimate our control. A skilled investor might believe their experience shields them from market crashes, even though those are inherently unpredictable. 3. Outcome bias. If we get the result we wanted, we assume we caused it, regardless of the actual mechanism. This creates a feedback loop. Success reinforces the illusion, while failure is rationalized or blamed on bad luck. We think we're in control because we want to be. Philosophical roots. But the illusion of control isn't just a psychological quirk. It touches the heart of ancient philosophical debates, especially around free will, agency, and determinism. Stoic philosophers like Epictetus made a sharp distinction between what we can control, our actions, our judgments, and what we can't, outcomes, opinions of others, external events. Some things are up to us, Epictetus wrote, and some things are not. Suffering, he argued, comes from trying to control the uncontrollable. Fast forward to the 17th century, and philosophers like Baruch Spinoza argued that everything, including human actions, follows deterministic laws. If we understood all causes, he claimed, we'd see that our choices weren't really free. They were inevitable. Yet, despite these arguments, humans continue to feel autonomous. Modern neuroscience echoes Spinoza more than it contradicts him. Studies like those of Benjamin Libet in the 1980s found that the brain initiates actions milliseconds before we become consciously aware of deciding. This raises deep questions. Are we truly in control, or are we passengers in a car we believe we're driving? Real-world impacts. The illusion of control isn't just a thought experiment. It has real-world consequences. In finance, traders often believe their insights can beat the market, but numerous studies show that most investors, even professionals, underperform passive index funds. Their control is often noise mistaken for skill. In health, patients may cling to routines or pseudoscientific remedies, believing these actions will directly cure them, sometimes at the expense of evidence-based treatment. In leadership and politics, leaders may attribute success to their strategies when timing, external forces, or sheer luck played the dominant role. This can lead to dangerous overconfidence and policy decisions based on illusion rather than reality. Yet, ironically, this illusion can also help us. In times of uncertainty, a sense of control, even if illusory, reduces stress, boosts motivation, and can improve performance. In moderation, it can be adaptive, but unchecked, it becomes delusion, escaping the illusion. So, what can we do about it? 1. Practice intellectual humility. Like Socrates, remind yourself that the only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. Question your influence over events. Be cautious of success, especially when it comes too easily. 2. Focus on process over outcome. We can't always control what happens, but we can control how we approach challenges. Effort, strategy, and values are within our domain. Outcomes are not. 3. Embrace probabilistic thinking. Instead of certainty, think in terms of likelihoods. Shift your mindset from "I will succeed" to "if I take these actions, I increase my chances of success." 4. Seek feedback and listen to it. Others often see our blind spots more clearly than we do. The illusion of control thrives in echo chambers. Break the echo. 5. Accept uncertainty. Philosopher Alan Watts once said, "Trying to control the future is like trying to control the wind. It only frustrates you and blinds you to the present." Instead of fighting uncertainty, learn to dance with it. The illusion of control is not a flaw in our minds. It's a feature. It evolved to help us act in an unpredictable world. But left unchecked, it can lead to hubris, error, and suffering. Understanding this illusion isn't about giving up control. It's about recognizing where control ends and humility begins. Because real power doesn't come from controlling everything. It comes from knowing what you can control and letting go of what you can't. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this philosophical exploration, consider liking, subscribing, and sharing your thoughts in the comments. And remember, you might not control the algorithm, but hitting that like button sure makes you feel like you do. To truly understand the illusion of control, we need to go back, way back, to our evolutionary roots. Imagine our ancient ancestors on the savannah. Every rustle in the grass could mean danger or opportunity. Those who saw patterns, even in randomness, had a survival advantage. If you thought that rustling bush meant a predator and you ran, even if it was just the wind, you lived to pass on your genes. In this environment, false positives were less costly than false negatives. In other words, believing you had control or that your actions could prevent danger was often safer than acknowledging randomness. Over time, natural selection favored minds that over-attributed agency, minds that assumed cause and effect relationships even where none existed. This gave rise to what some psychologists call a hyperactive agency detection device. And while that helped our ancestors survive, it also laid the foundation for modern cognitive illusions, including the Dunning-Kruger Effect. In today's digital world, the illusion of expertise has taken on new and sometimes unsettling forms. We curate our social media feeds, click on what interests us, and feel like we're choosing our own paths. But algorithms are shaping those choices, reinforcing our beliefs, and giving us a false sense of knowledge and control. The more we see content that affirms our views, the more confident we become, even if we're wrong. This is the illusion of competence packaged as information. So what do we do about all this? How do we live wisely with the knowledge that we're not as competent or as in control as we think? Here's a practical toolkit. Practice intellectual humility. Assume there's more you don't know than you do. Seek feedback, especially from people who disagree with you. Embrace lifelong learning. Expertise is a process, not a destination. Reflect on your past beliefs. If you've never changed your mind, you're probably not growing. Surround yourself with people smarter than you, and listen to them. Because wisdom doesn't come from knowing everything. It comes from knowing what you don't know, and being okay with it. And maybe, just maybe, the first step toward true knowledge is realizing how little we really have. If you enjoyed this exploration, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Stay curious and stay humble. We've all encountered them. Individuals who project unwavering confidence, speak with authority, and seem utterly certain of their knowledge. Yet, their conclusions are often misinformed, misguided, or just flat out wrong. The colleague who derails team meetings with overcomplicated solutions to simple problems. The family member who proclaims themselves an expert after binge-watching a conspiracy-laden documentary. The internet warrior who argues with qualified professionals armed with nothing more than a hunch and a headline. This paradox of strong conviction paired with weak competence is not just a social quirk. It's a reflection of a deep psychological phenomenon that touches all of us more than we care to admit. It's called the Dunning-Kruger Effect, and it offers a sobering insight into how we misjudge our own abilities, and often the world around us. In 1999, social psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger published a study that would reshape how we understand human self-perception. It all began, surprisingly, with a bank robbery. In 1995, a man named MacArthur Wheeler robbed 2 Pittsburgh banks in broad daylight. What made his case remarkable wasn't just the brazen nature of the crime. It was what he believed would protect him. He didn't wear a mask. He didn't disguise himself. He covered his face in lemon juice. Why? Because he believed that lemon juice, like invisible ink, would make his face invisible to security cameras. When the police showed him footage of himself robbing the bank, he was shocked, genuinely shocked. "But I wore the juice," he reportedly said. To most, this might sound absurd, almost laughable, but to David Dunning, it raised a haunting question. How could someone be so misinformed and so certain? Dunning and Kruger's study revealed a truth many of us sense but rarely articulate, that the very skills we need to evaluate ourselves are the same skills we often lack when we're unskilled. It's not just ignorance. It's meta-ignorance, not knowing what we don't know. Their research involved testing participants on grammar, logic, and humor, and then asking them to rate their own performance. Those who performed worst consistently rated themselves as above average. Meanwhile, the top performers often underestimated themselves. This reveals a tragic irony. Incompetence isn't just a lack of skill, it's a double ignorance. And the worst part? The less we know, the more certain we feel. The more we learn, the more doubt creeps in. This echoes the wisdom of philosophers across centuries. Socrates, the great gadfly of Athens, famously claimed, "I know that I know nothing." His humility wasn't a form of self-deprecation, it was clarity, a recognition of the vast unknown. Bertrand Russell put it even more sharply. The fundamental cause of the trouble is that in the modern world, the stupid are cocksure while the intelligent are full of doubt. It's as if our confidence doesn't scale with knowledge, but inversely. This is the Dunning-Kruger curve. At the beginning, there's a steep spike, the Mount Stupid. Then comes the crash into the valley of despair. With time and experience, we slowly ascend the slope of enlightenment until we reach the plateau of sustainability, where real knowledge and humility meet. 3 psychological traps keep us caught in this illusion. The unknown unknowns. We don't know what we don't know, so we assume we know enough. Confirmation bias. We seek validation, not correction. We highlight successes, ignore failures, and interpret criticism as misunderstanding. The above-average effect. We want to believe we're above average, even when statistically half of us can't be. But the Dunning-Kruger effect isn't a rare glitch. It's a feature of the human mind. Evolution didn't select for intellectual humility. It selected for survival, speed, and social cohesion. Believing we're right even when we aren't helps us act decisively, win arguments, and maintain status. But in the modern world, these instincts can betray us. We see the Dunning-Kruger effect everywhere, in corporate boardrooms where overconfident leaders make poor strategic decisions while ignoring expert advice, in healthcare where unskilled practitioners overestimate their abilities, sometimes with life-threatening consequences, in politics where the loudest voices often lack the most understanding, on social media where everyone has a platform, but not everyone has perspective. The internet has leveled the information playing field, but not in the way we hoped. It has made opinion feel like expertise and visibility seem like credibility. As astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson warns, one of the great challenges in this world is knowing enough about a subject to think you're right, but not enough to know you're wrong. It's tempting to think this bias is universal, and it is to a degree. But culture shapes how it appears. In the West, especially in American culture, self-esteem is a virtue. Confidence is rewarded. Children are taught to believe in themselves, often without nuance. In contrast, East Asian cultures emphasize humility, self-correction, and continuous improvement. Japanese students, for example, consistently underrate their own abilities, even when outperforming peers from other countries. Confidence is not always competence, and modesty is not always weakness. Why does this illusion of knowledge persist? Because in our evolutionary past, it served us. Imagine early humans on the savannah. Those who hesitated might be eaten. Those who confidently acted, even on bad information, survived long enough to reproduce. Our brains evolved to prioritize speed over certainty, action over analysis, and patterns over randomness. This gave us an edge, but also a weakness. We often see clarity where there is complexity, order where there is chaos. We mistake confidence for truth, and that's the illusion. So how do we protect ourselves from this trap? 1. Practice intellectual humility. Assume you're wrong before you assume you're right. Wisdom begins with doubt. 2. Seek feedback, especially from those who disagree with you, especially when it's uncomfortable. 3. Embrace uncertainty. The wisest minds don't give answers, they ask better questions. 4. Keep learning. Expertise isn't a destination, it's a horizon that moves as you approach it. 5. Surround yourself with smarter people. And listen, not to reply, but to understand. As Richard Feynman said, I would rather have questions that can't be answered than answers that can't be questioned. The Dunning-Kruger effect isn't just about others, it's about us. It's about the gap between who we think we are and who we really are. And in that gap lies not just humility, but hope. Because the first step to real knowledge is realizing how little we truly possess. So stay curious, stay humble, and remember, the more certain someone sounds, the more skeptical you should be, especially if that someone is yourself.